MAGA candidates sweep their primaries in an America First blowout. We're going to look at the astonishing wins for the Trumpists last night. We're going to see what President Trump had to say about it. And stick me to the very end of this video and I'll reveal how and why the Republican Party is indeed changing like never before. You are not going to want to miss this. Greetings, everyone. Dr. Stevie with you. Great to be with you. As always, I am your daily fake news antidote. So come on into your Patriot Professor's Den. We're happy to think better so you can feel better in these crazy and turbulent and increasingly Trumpian times. So make sure to smack that bell and subscribe. Before we dive in here, gang, let me ask you, how do you think leftists have been sleeping of late? Do you see them resting comfortably, peaceably in their beds, or do you see them up late, panicked, unable to sleep as they watch their woke world crumble before them? Well, obviously the latter. And so while leftists are panicking late at night, you, the victorious patriot, can have the best night of sleep imaginable with the one and only My Pillow, designed by the Patriot of Patriots, Mike Lindell. In fact, you can support Mike and get the best sleep of your life with their lowest prices in their history with the code Turley. Usually classic My Pillow is $69.98, but now if you use my code Turley, you can get your own classic My Pillow for just $19.98. And that applies to over 200 products in their catalog. So don't wait. Click on that link below. Get one for yourself. Get one for the patriots in your life. Let's support Mike and My Pillow. Let's get the best sleep of our lives at the lowest prices ever. All as woke leftists lose theirs. All right, let's dive right in here, gang. We had several primaries yesterday in the states of Ohio, Indiana, Nevada, and to the utter horror of both woke leftists and rhinos alike, the MAGA movement absolutely continues to dominate the GOP. Let's start in the great state of Ohio. J.D. Vance, who built his entire campaign around MAGA and the new nationalist populist movement, and is sweeping the Republican Party. He stomped the Republican field to win the nomination for the U.S. Senate, and it wasn't just J.D. Vance. Take a look at this guy. This is J.R. Majewski standing in front of his massive MAGA sign that he painted on his entire front lawn. He's a veteran. He's a major America First, and he won his primary for the congressional seat in Ohio District 9. In Ohio's 7th District, Trump-backed Max Miller triumphed in his primary. In Ohio's 13th District, Trump-backed Madison Jeziato Gilbert won her primary. In Indiana, every single one of Trump's endorsed candidates won. Same with Nevada. The two Trump-endorsed candidates won there as well. In fact, it's better than we could have ever imagined. You ready for this? Let's just cut to the chase. All 22 candidates endorsed by President Trump won their primaries, thereby solidifying the GOP as the new Trumpian Patriot Party. It was an absolute blowout in terms of MAGA-based candidates ready to storm Washington, D.C. in a red wave. And look at the turnout numbers, particularly in Ohio. Look at this. Over 1 million Republicans came out to vote in the primary, whereas half of that, just 500,000, came out for the Democrat primary. Who do you think has the winds at their backs with this one? Needless to say, President Trump gave his assessment of the primaries, saying, quote, "Yesterday was brilliant for the Republican Party." And he's right. As Alex Brusewitz tweeted out, Trump-aligned candidates won every single race last night. Cheney-Kinzinger-aligned candidates lost every single race last night. Great news for America, bad news for rhinos. And those two go hand in hand, of course. Whatever is good news for America is always bad news for rhinos, for both the woke right and the woke left. Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri absolutely agreed, tweeting out, J.D. Vance's victory in the Ohio Senate primary is a big moment for the Republican Party. J.D. represents the future of the conservative movement as a coalition of working people, families, and people of faith, welcoming every American who believes in this nation on to victory in November. Now, the key here for J.D. Vance and all these other candidates who won last night is that their campaigns represented MAGA in its most fundamental form, particularly in Ohio. Some of the other candidates tried to paint themselves, as the political outsider, and therefore they were the rightful heirs to President Trump, or some sought to convince Ohio voters that they were the most anti-establishment, that they were going to drain the swamp. But then when it came down to it, like when it came to the issue of starting World War III with more foreign wars and interventionism in Ukraine, there was only one candidate in Ohio that said 2 words, hell no, and that was J.D. Vance. He was the only GOP candidate on the debate stage that stood steadfastly against establishing a no-fly zone in Ukraine, which would guarantee the triggering of World War III. It would necessarily entail the United States military shooting down Russian air fighters and destroying Russian anti-aircraft defense systems. We would be immediately declared as a co-belligerent in the war, and we would be attacked by Russia. This is as insane as it gets when it comes to our political class, and every single one of those candidates for the Republican nomination for Senate endorsed that insanity, for the exception of J.D. Vance. In fact, Vance actually wrote an op-ed entitled, "I will be damned if Ukraine is prioritized over the tsunami of illegal migrants crossing our southern border." That is the MAGA movement that won last night and won all over the nation quite impressively. And so, what does Vance's victory and the increasing takeover of the Republican Party by Patriot candidates, what does that all represent? What's really happening here with the GOP? Well, something pretty amazing for sure. But first, what do you think of this? The best is yet to come, right? Do you believe that? Well, then make sure to show it by wearing it for all to see. And you can do that by clicking on the link below and visiting our merch store. This is one of the best ways that you can support this channel, all the while spreading Patriot hope far and wide. Get something for yourself. Get something for the Patriots in your life. Click on that link below or go to store.turleytalks.com. That is store.turleytalks.com. All right, so what Vance's victory and the victory of all these other MAGA movement candidates represents really is nothing less than the triumph of the mass influx of the working class voter into the Republican Party. That's been going on since at least 2016. We're seeing a new Republican Party emerge here precisely because the demographics of the party, the constituents, are changing so dramatically. Many of you, I'm sure, are aware of the plight of the working class, particularly in Ohio. That has been J.D. Vance's passion ever since he authored the book Hillbilly Elegy, which highlighted how particularly the white working class has been so adversely affected by globalist economic policies, which, of course, have been championed by the rhino neocon wing of the Republican Party. In what scholars call a global division of labor, manufacturing and industry have been increasingly shipped out to third world nations, all the while capital and finance are relocated to urban centers, a process that has left rural populations highly unemployed. And as age-old communities became reduced to rust belts, rural communities found themselves not merely mocked and ridiculed as rubes and knuckle-dragging hicks by our media elite, but completely forgotten and neglected by our political class as well. And so what President Trump represented was a campaign that put this forgotten demographic of America front and center in a new MAGA-based America First nationalist populist agenda. Anything and everything that the working class has longed for, from closing the borders to bringing manufacturing and industrial jobs back home to celebrating rather than denigrating our Christian customs, culture, and traditions. That's what Trump promised would be the top priorities of his America First campaign. And it worked, as it were, right? The working class, which was traditionally Democrat, ended up flooding the Republican Party like never before. In 2016, nearly 200 counties in Wisconsin, Iowa, Michigan, and Pennsylvania that had voted Democrat in every presidential election since the 1980s, often by a 20-point margin, suddenly switched over and voted for Trump by a comparable 20-point margin. It was a 40-point swing. The swing was so dramatic, it was so significant, that even if Hillary Clinton got the same turnout among blacks as Obama got, she still would have lost the election. What we saw last night was the triumph of this wing of the Republican Party. The GOP is becoming fast the working class, MAGA-based America First Party, And as such, we're finding that Trump's strategy that he talked about early in 2021, that instead of starting a third-party Patriot Party, we're going to instead have a Patriot take over the GOP, that strategy is working. We have to remember back in 2016, Trump was basically a third-party candidate who won a major party nomination. He ran on his own platform, one that was often at odds with the GOP established platform put together by rhino lobbyists and highly paid advisors. Bill O'Reilly called Trump a Trumpian rather than a Republican back then. The Republican Party in 2016 was a solidly neocon party, from Bush Sr. to Jr., from McCain to Romney. It was a thoroughly neocon, rhino-centered party that Trump absolutely demolished and has remade and continues to remake in his own image. And that's what we saw for the most part. That's what we saw last night. So a huge win for the MAGA movement going into the midterms, which should give a solid boost for a number of other MAGA-based candidates in the primaries in the weeks ahead. Now, before you go, you will definitely want to check out my latest video I just uploaded on woke leftists melting down over the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Talk about Schadenfreude. You're going to absolutely love it. So make sure to click on the link, and I'll see you over there. God bless.